Hello again, everybody. Barry Hyatt here in Scottsville at the UK Extension Office with my good friend Kelly Burgess, who I'm wondering if you've gotten your Christmas shopping done.
I have not a lot, maybe just a couple little things, but Santa's gonna have to be going to the store later on.
Plenty of work to do still, right?
Yes, definitely.
Well, speaking of work, we also have a great recipe for you all today, and I think you're gonna really like it. I think a lot, actually, don't you think?
Yes, I think it's the perfect recipe for this time of year, all kinds of family gatherings, whether it's a breakfast, a brunch. This will be something good that everybody can enjoy.
So what are some of the main ingredients we're talking about here?
Yes, our spotlight produce is sweet potatoes, which are actually still in season in Kentucky this time of year, and bell peppers. I've chosen to use bell peppers, but it is called a hot and sweet frittata. So you have the option to use hot peppers if that is more of your personal preference, or mix them. But I went with a little bit milder for our recipe today.
And we have a meat in this recipe as well, too.
We do. We actually are using ground turkey sausage, a little bit leaner option than a pork sausage, so kind of keep our fat levels down, since so many of our other recipes this time of year tend to be higher in that saturated fat.
Yeah. So anything you can eat during the holiday season that's not going to put a lot of fat on you, that'd probably be the best idea.
Exactly. We want to keep fat to a lower percentage of our daily intake, and so this recipe will help you meet that goal.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and get started, I guess, then.
Sure. Well, I'll mention that we have our ground turkey sausage already on. It's about on medium, and Barry's going to kind of just tend to that for us while we work on everything else. I'm also going to go ahead and put our bell peppers, which I have red here. Ooh.
Alrighty then.
They are ready to go.
They're ready, aren't they? You know, I've never actually had ground turkey before.
Really?
No. As far as preparing it.
We had 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the skillet heated up, and so that is what
that's what's got it going.
Caused our music this morning. But we'll let those saute for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And so while that's calming itself down, we will show a little bit about the peppers.
Okay, very good.
I'm gonna move this to our center stage here.
Sure.
So as I mentioned, this is just a green bell pepper, very mild, not hot at all. They're grown in the summer typically, but they freeze very well. So if you had some extra left over from your garden and then maybe slice them up and put them in the freezer, this is the perfect recipe to go ahead and pull them out and use them this time of year.
Most certainly.
So there's different ways to cut a bell pepper. I generally like to cut it kind of in half, and where you can just pull it apart and see those seeds inside.
Sure.
Now, I learned something neat recently that a lot of people think that the seeds are the hot part of a pepper. I had always thought that, but it's actually this the whitish part that you see around the seeds. It's called the capsaicin. Is the chemical or the part of the plant that provides the heat. So you don't have to worry about touching the inner parts of the green bell pepper. That's not going to set your fingers on fire or anything.
Very good.
But with something like a jalapeno pepper or another type of hot pepper, you might want to wear gloves so that you don't get that adverse reaction.
Because you have a tendency of wanting to wipe your eyes sometimes, don't you?
Right, and I have made that mistake. I think maybe I just brushed something back from around my mouth, and my hole around my mouth got hot. So if you do choose to make this recipe with a hot pepper, definitely make sure to wash your gloves, wear your gloves, or watch out for that inner part of the pepper for sure. We also do our sweet potatoes. You want to make sure that you wash your sweet potato ahead of time.
Yes.
Even though for this recipe we are going to peel the skin, it's still important to wash it, because when you cut the sweet potato, your knife is touching that outer surface. So if there is any bacteria from the dirt that's left on it, it's taking it through the entire sweet potato, through each cross section every time you slice it.
Most certainly.
So we want to be careful with that. So sweet potatoes generally peel pretty easily, and they're also, since they are in season right now, they're generally, you can find them at a very low price at the grocery store this time of year. So you'll just want to peel your sweet potato, and then we will cut it in small sections, but they can be cubes. I would say about a 1/2 inch cube.
Sure.
Is what we want to go for this recipe.
And what kind of knife is that you're using, actually?
It is a chef knife.
Okay.
I like that it has the flat bottom and it's not too long.
Okay.
So if you put your fingers around the base of it right before the blade, and you can actually hold on to the top part of the blade, that really helps you maintain good control of the knife. So just important things to remember, especially when your produce is a little bit tougher to cut.
Sure.
You don't want to have to feel like you're leveraging so much, because that's a prime recipe for slipping
and we don't want that,
ending
of
up with
course.
a cut.
Yeah.
No. We want to keep the red in our recipe from the peppers.
Most certainly.
Now you'll notice that we've used red peppers in this recipe. You can also use green bell peppers, or if you want it to be festive for this time of year, you can mix the red and green, and that'll give a really nice appearance at the end. So while these are finishing up, just kind of stir those a little bit.
So basically, you're not really cooking those to completion. You're just kind of warming them up, basically?
Right, warming and softening them. They are going to be in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes later on.
Okay, very good.
So the next step is we have eggs. Now we're making a half recipe right now, but the full recipe calls for a dozen eggs.
Okay.
So you'll want to just go ahead and pick up a full dozen, and you will crack them and whisk them before completing the recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and crack these eggs, and I'm going to throw them in that little blue bowl.
Most certainly.
Thank you, Barry.
You're most welcome.
So you'll want to crack your dozen eggs. So if you have some kids that need to learn how to crack eggs, this is a great recipe. So I'll have lots of tries if you're willing to take the time to get the shell out.
Yeah, that's good. That can get a little messy, I guess, you know.
Just a little bit. It's a good skill to have, though.
Most certainly. And so you said we're making a half a recipe, basically.
We are making half, yes. But the full recipe would call for a 1.5 cups of each of our produce items. So a 1.5 cups of the cubed sweet potatoes, a 1.5 cups of the diced bell peppers. Okay. And you'll want to dice those bell peppers a little bit smaller than your sweet potatoes. I left the sweet potatoes more in a bite-sized chunk, if you will.
Very good.
And so then the full recipe would call for a dozen eggs and a pound of your ground turkey sausage.
Very good.
So, I like that the recipe calls for the amounts that you purchase these items in generally, and so you don't end up with a whole lot of a little bit of this, a little bit of that left over. You can just kind of use what you actually purchased.
Most certainly.
Once you whisk these eggs together, the recipe calls for very few spices, which I appreciate. It's probably things that you already have on hand at home. Just a pinch of salt. We're going to add these to our egg mixture.
Okay. And is that pepper?
Yes, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper.
Okay.
And a 1/2 teaspoon of crushed red pepper.
All right.
So the reason that I chose to use the bell peppers in this recipe was because we were adding that crushed red pepper.
Sure.
So you can experiment, try accordingly. If you like it really hot, you can use hot peppers and crushed red pepper. But I decided to let the heat come from that crushed red pepper
very good.
today.
That's awesome.
And we also have a 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese.
Okay.
So those
be
are
for
the
later.
rest of our ingredients. Yes. So I think these are looking pretty good.
I think so. I think the turkey's done, actually.
Awesome. Well, we will go ahead and move on to the last part. Don't forget to turn your burners off.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, we don't want any emergencies.
Or the stove, I guess I should say. I said oven, didn't I?
Right.
I'm still thinking about the oven already, aren't I?
Speaking of oven, it is preheated to 375.
Okay, very
So that's
good.
what we're going to bake this on.
Okay.
And so this is kind of a layering type situation. We have our dish. It's an 8x8 casserole dish, and it is pre-greased.
Okay.
And so we are going to put our peppers, or our produce, I should say, peppers and sweet potatoes.
Sure.
As well as our turkey sausage.
Now, do you want to try to drain this?
We can.
Or scoop it out?
We can scoop it out.
I'm going to let you do that. This
sure.
is...
It's a little bit of a clumsy spatula there.
It's just a tad. It's not the easiest to maneuver, for sure. For
Right.
me, at least.
Right. And this is lean. Like we mentioned, the turkey is a little bit more lean.
You want to try the bigger one? You could try
Sure.
this one.
Or you know what? How about I drain a little
There
bit
you
of it
go.
here?
That'll work.
Since we have 2 pans.
That'll work. Okay, I mean, but one thing I have learned on this, of course, you all probably know this at home already, but it's not nearly as much grease from the turkey as there would be ground beef.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
to me, that's an advantage because it's less mess to clean up afterwards.
Most certainly, yes.
And so you want to just make sure that your vegetables and your meat are well distributed throughout your pan.
Sure.
You don't want all the veggies on one side.
Right.
So we will put, you can kind of see that it's all well distributed. And then we are going to actually pour our mozzarella cheese over just a little bit. It's only half a cup, so it's really not that much. Pour that over there, and then our last step is to pour our egg mixture over everything.
Good deal.
Whoops, that yolk got away from me. It is important to whisk the eggs beforehand because when it bakes, you don't want large sections of just yolk or just white.
Sure.
So
okay.
Now that we have it all put together, we're going to put it in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
I did about 27 minutes on my trial run.
Okay.
That was perfect. And you end up with a very, very tasty recipe.
Well, speaking of the trial run, we of course already have that baked and it looks awesome. We're going to show you that to you now. If you'd like the recipe, it's oh so easy to get. You can get it in a few ways. You can email me at North Central. My email address there is barry.hyatt@nctc.com, or you can simply go to our website. It's www.nctc.com and look under the recipe banner, and you can see all the recipes previously and obviously the most current one. And Kelly also has another way, don't you?
Yes, on Facebook there is a Plated Up Kentucky Proud Facebook page that the recipe is available on, or if you just put in your search engine Plated Up Kentucky Proud, you'll find all the recipes by season and by type of produce, so it'll be easy to find.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for this great idea.
Thanks, Barry. Have a happy holiday season.
You do as well, and we hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a very blessed New Year. Take care, and we'll talk to you again here real soon.